3 spine-chilling true Easter horrors, unexplainable secrets exposed from haunted traditions. The air was thick with dread as Sarah stood at the edge of Willow Creek's wooded park, a place that had once felt so innocent. It was almost time for the annual Easter egg hunt, but the excitement of the event clashed violently with the whispers of fear that had taken hold of the town since last spring when a family vanished into thin air amidst the festive chaos. The pastel colors of chocolate eggs looked sickly against the twilight, taunting her with memories of childhood joy now twisted into a nightmare. Easter was meant to symbolize hope and rebirth, but for Sarah, it brought only anxiety. She had 2 jobs and an 8-year-old daughter, Lily, who deserved joy but was now shadowed by the ghost of fear. The crisp air felt heavy on her shoulders, almost bearing down on her as she mulled over those hushed conversations she overheard with neighbors, words dripping with suspicion and pointed glances that felt like daggers. What happened last year? What truly haunted this town? One night, tucked away in her late grandmother's attic, Sarah's hands found an old journal buried beneath heaps of dust and cobwebs. Flickering candlelight threw ominous shadows on the walls as she pried it open. What she found sent shivers down her spine. Old, forgotten tales of children disappearing during Easter, foreboding stories filled with malevolent guardians, and dark rituals masquerading as innocent traditions. Her heart raced at every page turn. Was Willow Creek, with its charming appearance, hiding something sinister? Eerie sensations began surfacing in her life, an overwhelming feeling of being watched, shadows darting across her front yard, voices fading into the stillness. Sarah shrugged it off as exhaustion, yet the gnawing sensation at her gut was impossible to ignore. There was something terribly wrong in her seemingly idyllic neighborhood, a nightmare lying just beneath the facade of normalcy. Then, one fateful evening, Sarah and Lily decided to take part in the local tradition of hiding eggs in the woods, a bittersweet tribute to fond memories. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a haunting beauty cloaked everything in shadows. Suddenly, Lily was gone. Panic surged through Sarah like ice water in her veins. Lily! She screamed, her voice trembling, swallowed by the encroaching darkness. The trees appeared to close in, every rustle felt like a threat. Time blurred as her mind raced frantically, scanning the growing shadows. A sense of dread seeped into her bones, an icy grip of fear. Footsteps whispered behind her as she darted deeper into the woods, her heart pounding like a wild drum. Was she truly alone? The stories from the journal echoed in her mind. What if the darkness had come to claim her daughter? In her desperation, Sarah stumbled into chilling clues, laying bare the reality of her neighbors' twisted beliefs, faces she trusted now rendered grotesque in the dim light of her horror. Each revelation crumbled her once safe world, twisting Easter's meaning into something unrecognizable and horrific. No longer was it just a local event, it was a tapestry woven with shadows, bound by unspeakable secrets kept by those who smiled at her across picket fences. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah felt the darkness closing in, every heartbeat resonating louder in the suffocating silence. Would she uncover the twisted history before it consumed her? Would she find her daughter, or become just another whispered tale in the town's Easter horror archives? Everything she thought she knew dissolved away, leaving only the urgent question: was salvation even possible in a town that thrived on fear? 3 spine-chilling true Easter horrors, unexplainable secrets exposed from haunted traditions. The darkness enveloped Sarah like a suffocating blanket. She could barely breathe, the air thick with dread and a foul smell she couldn't place. Panic clawed at her throat as she called out for her daughter again, voice breaking, echoing through the trees like a ghostly cry. Lily. The name hung in the cold air but was met with silence. The woods were alive with an unsettling stillness, every shadow a reminder of her vulnerability. She could feel the weight of all those tales pressed down on her children, swallowed by the night, laughter twisted into screams, moving deeper into the forest. Her heart raced at every snap of a twig or rustling of leaves. Was it the wind, or was something watching her? In the back of her mind, the journal's revelations haunted her. Every sinister story threaded together in a tapestry of old fears, binding the town in a web of unimaginable dread. They took those children under the guise of celebration. They played, they laughed, then they vanished. A sudden rustle nearby snapped her back to reality. With adrenaline immediately surging, Sarah turned, scanning her surroundings. Shadows twisted like fingers, reaching out to her, beckoning her closer. Lily. This time, her voice cracked, raw with desperation. She took a step forward, heart hammering in her chest. Out of the corner of her eye, something moved. An urge to shield herself from whatever menace lurked behind the trees burst forth. She gritted her teeth and darted toward the motion, but the underbrush tangled around her legs, slowing her down. Her breath hitched as she stumbled to regain her footing. "Mommy." The voice was faint but unmistakable. "Lily." Sarah's heart soared momentarily. She bolted in the direction of the voice, fear fueling her movements. "I'm coming." The shadows seemed to shift, drawing nearer as though something sinister was keeping her from reaching her daughter. She burst into a small clearing and froze. There, in a shaft of fading moonlight, stood Lily, her eyes wide, motionless, as if entranced by something beyond. Sarah's heart dropped. This wasn't the happy child she knew. "Lily!" She shouted again, rushing toward her. But before she could reach her, a chilling breeze swept through, muddying the ground beneath them, and she staggered. What was happening? Why was her daughter standing there, so still? Then Sarah saw it, shadows creeping around the edges of the clearing, dark figures forming and reforming, like a malicious dance. They whispered a language of the wicked, words that felt cold against her skin. She attempted to lunge forward, but the air thickened, dragging her down until she was almost on her knees. Mommy. Lily's voice was lower now, almost robotic. It no longer had the light of a child in it. "No!" Sarah screamed, each heartbeat echoing the terror that enveloped her. She fought against it, reaching for Lily's little hand, gripping it tightly. "Come to me." But as she made contact, Lily's gaze shifted to something unseen. Sarah shivered as fear clawed at her insides. "Look!" her daughter said, pointing behind her, eyes wide with fright. Sarah turned, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. The shadows were closer, swirling, forming a grotesque figure shrouded in darkness. It was nearly human but distorted and twisted, with eyes like glowing embers pinning her in place. "Run!" With all her strength, Sarah yanked Lily toward the edge of the clearing. They needed to escape. They needed to get away from whatever had taken hold. But behind them, the whispers grew louder, an accusatory chant, entwining the air with dread. The darkness surged forward, hungry and relentless. "Mommy, it's coming!" Lily screamed, her small hands trembling in Sarah's grip. They dashed, but the looming evil was faster, a paralyzing weight bearing down on them. Just as they approached the tree lean, an icy voice called out to Sarah, slicing through the night. "You can't run from your fate." The shadows lunged, darkness swallowing them whole, as Sarah's desperate scream pierced the night, echoing the fate of those who had come before her. The question lingered in the air: would she and Lily become the next legends whispered about in Willow Creek? Heart racing, Sarah felt the darkness coiling around her, a living entity seeking to consume her and her daughter. Gritting her teeth, she clutched Lily's hand tighter, but the fingers felt cold and unyielding, as if slipping away. They pushed through the underbrush, branches clawing at their clothes, desperate to hinder them. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was fading, warping into a soundless wail that sent needles of ice through Sarah's veins. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing herself to move, pull Lily, and regain control. The forest twisted in a sickening way, as if it were alive, the roots seeming to tangle deliberately, barriers designed to trap them, to keep them from escaping this cursed place. Then, ahead, a sliver of light flickered through the trees, flicking like a beacon. Hope surged within Sarah as she stumbled forward, dragging her daughter with her. "We're almost there," she choked out, every step costing her a piece of her resolve, a shred of her sanity, but the figure loomed behind them, relentless, inhibiting her escape. Shadows bellowed in laughter, mocking her. She could almost feel breath on her neck, tinged with the stench of decay. The icy whispers united, chanting a dark ritual. They filled her mind with ancient fears, curses, and tales that painted the horrors of Willow Creek's past. Children lost, families torn apart, laughter twisted into howls. Was this truly their fate? No. Sarah cried, stumbling into the clearing. The patch of light grew closer, and she felt a moment of clarity. "We need to, Mommy!" Lily screamed, jerking her arm free, and Sarah's heart dropped. Lily stood rooted, staring blankly at the formless shadow that crept from the trees, a long, ethereal limb reaching out, beckoning her softly. "Lily!" Panic surged, overwhelming her. "Run to me. Please!" But it was too late. The girl was enraptured, eyes glazed over as laughter echoed around them from unseen mouths. Shadows flitted in and out of sight, voices pressing against Sarah's mind, drowning her in panic. Her baby, she was losing her. Suddenly, the joy of the hidden light flickered, and a deeper darkness seeped in, eclipsing it. The shadows around her pulsed, rising like smoke, curling toward Lily, drawing her in with an unnatural pull. In that moment, Sarah's feet felt like they were encased in cement, her body frozen in a horror she could do nothing to stop. A voice, calm yet commanding, cut across the panic. "Child of prophecy, surrender to the harvest." Sarah's blood ran cold. The forest quaked with a low growl, as if agreeing. Gripped by terror, she lunged toward Lily again, but the ground trembled, shifting beneath her. She felt the very essence of the woods pulling her own life, as if it fed on their fear, feasting on their desperation. "Mommy!" Lily whimpered, reaching for her. But the darkness was too strong, blinding Sarah with its intensity. She was losing her. "Fight it, Lily. Fight!" Sarah screamed, her heart smashing against her ribs. No response. Only the shadows tightened their relentless grip, expelling a terror that pinched at Sarah's sanity. She was drowning in the echoes of lost laughter, in the nightmarish tales of children that lingered like trapped souls. Would she ever be free of the cycles of horrors? Just then, she remembered the journal. The rituals, the dark secrets of the forest woven together in a single page laden with warnings. The harvest must be fed. "Lily! You need to remember. We are not part of this." She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. This was the line drawn between survival and becoming a story of horror. Her own heart racing, she reached deep within, summoning the primal urge to protect her life, her girl. The darkness disoriented her, creating an eerie stillness. The shadows pulsed, shifting ominously. If only she could break the hold. Could she pull Lily back? But before she could execute any plan, another whisper sliced through the air, deep and ancient. "Only blood refreshes the earth." As the clearing filled with an oppressive weight, Sarah knew she had to make a choice. A sacrifice loomed heavy in her heart. "Help me!" Lily shrieked, her little voice cracking against the silence. In the last moment, Sarah braced herself for the inevitable showdown. She gripped her daughter's hand and shouted into the smothering abyss, "No! We refuse to be a part of this cursed tradition." The shadows hissed in fury, exploding outward as they clawed for them, and with one reluctant pull, they dove into the blinding light ahead. But what would they face on the other side? And was the forest done with them yet? As the darkness shrieked behind them, uncertainty seeped into their hearts like poison. What realities awaited them beyond the veil? Would they truly escape? The whispers lingered, fierce and promising, leaving a chilling echo as they barreled towards an unknown fate, each heartbeat amplifying their worst fears. They burst through the light, but it flickered and quaked like an unresolved scream. Sarah shielded her eyes, disoriented, and stumbled onto soft ground that felt wrong beneath her feet, spongy, almost alive. She gasped, her breath hitching as she turned to catch a glimpse of the forest behind them. To her horror, it writhed and twisted, branches bending like skeletal fingers clasped in a sinister dance. "Mommy!" Lily's voice shattered her thoughts, weaving through the thick fog of disorientation. Sarah spun around with a frantic rush, her heart racing even faster when she saw her daughter, standing still, gazing wide-eyed into a vast darkness stretching out beyond the clearing. The forest, now a towering wall of elms, seemed to press in from all sides, darkness pooling like ink at its base, pulsating with an insidious life. "What is this place?" Sarah whispered, cold sweat drenching her skin. She felt as if something was watching her, tracking her every move. Panic clawed at her throat like a bear trap, threatening to choke the breath from her lungs. Lily shivered, her small frame trembling as she stepped backward. "I don't want to be here, Mommy." The silence thickened, enveloping them in a suffocating embrace. Sarah took Lily's hand, squeezing it tightly, and together they inched away from the encroaching shadows. "We need to keep moving," she urged, though her insides felt like a knot of ice, but as they shuffled deeper into the clearing, the shadows behind them began to writhe and pulse, almost as if reacting to their presence. What do you want?" Sarah called out, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. Laughter echoed, high-pitched and mocking. Shadows poured from the trees, taking form, swirling shapes that danced closer with each frightened heartbeat. "Only one can leave," they seemed to chant, their words weaving a dark tapestry in the air. "Only one must pay the price for escape." Sarah's stomach dropped. The chilling reality washed over her, and she turned to Lily. "We can't listen to them. We're stronger than this." But deep inside, terror coiled around her heart, squeezing tighter with every pulse of the shadows. Around her, the air grew thick and oppressive, and the shadows whispered promises that clawed at her sanity, desires to return, to be part of the harvest that thrived on despair. She could feel the ground beneath her, oozing and crawling, each blade of grass writhing like tendrils of the darkness. "Mommy, please." Lily's soft whimper jolted Sarah. "I want to go home." "We will, I promise." Sarah shouted back, forcing her feet to move. Suddenly, the ground buckled under her, lurching upward like the maw of a beast preparing to swallow its prey. She lost her footing, and in a heartbeat, she felt the abyss yawing wide to welcome them. With a scream, Sarah seized Lily, their souls knit by desperation as they teetered on the edge of that black maw. It yawned like a mouth, wanting them to leap into its depths. "No!" Sarah shouted, bile rising in her throat. Their grip tightened as the shadows lunged towards them, tendrils reaching desperately. "One must fall," came the echoing demand, and the darkness pressed closer, pulsing as if hungry for the sacrifice it desired. But then an unexpected light broke through the fog, a faint flicker shimmering in the distance. "Look!" Sarah gasped, her eyes alighting on the beam. "We have to reach it." Stumbling toward it, Sarah felt her resolve harden. She would not give in. Barely holding Lily as they charged toward the light, the shadows clawed at them frantically, shrieking in agony. "You cannot escape. You belong to us." But the light grew brighter, blinding the shadows, forcing them to retreat in swirling panic. Gripped in fear yet driven by hope, they pushed forward, praying that salvation was within reach. But as they neared the light, it flickered ominously, teetering on the brink of vanishing, as if it, too, was a part of the dark ritual. With each step, the ground trembled violently. "Stay with me!" Sarah screamed, fighting against the instinct to flee. Yet just as they reached the fringes of the light, it exploded in an array of colors, and Sarah felt a sharp tug, as if her very essence was being pulled apart. "Mommy!" Lily cried, her voice slicing through the chaos, desperate and raw. She looked down, and her heart froze. The shadows around them coiled tighter, and 6 dark figures emerged, each a grotesque reflection of lost souls, their faces twisted in anguish, eyes glowing with malice. "Your choice," they whispered, a sound like grinding bones. "One must fall, one must rise." Sarah shivered. The forest was alive with echoes of past sacrifices, haunting eyes watching them from the darkness. Would they endure the curse, becoming part of this nightmare, or discover a way to unbind their fates? The sky cracked with deep thunder, and in that moment, Sarah knew their fight was far from over. The darkness whispered promises of horror as she clutched Lily's hand tighter, their fear and resolve entwined like vine and tree. What price would they truly pay to survive the pull of Willow Creek? And as they stood before the beckoning light, the choice hung before them, a chilling question that could seal their fate forever. The moment collided around them, a storm of shadows and light, swirling chaos that sent Sarah's thoughts reeling. The 6 figures loomed closer, formless whispers echoing in her head like the rustle of dead leaves. Each pulse of the darkness drew forth the memories of sacrifices past, lost souls trapped in their eternal torment, wailing with regret. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lily squeezed her hand, her grip tightening with fear. "We won't let them take us." Sarah's voice cracked but carried resolve. Yet, doubt gnawed at the edges of her heart. The forest felt alive, as if breathing with their every word. It pulsed and throbbed, drawing them in with an invisible force. "Only one can leave," the phrase curled around Sarah's mind like a cold tendril. She struggled to focus. "What do you mean?" she shouted, her words echoing impotently in the unyielding dark. "Choose." They taunted, their voices melding into a single, mournful chorus. "One must fall." The shadows snapped forward, and Sarah felt the bitter chill creep into her bones. She glanced at Lily. The innocence in her daughter's eyes was piercing, glinting with flickering terror, illuminating their fragile bond in the oppressive dark. "Don't listen to them," Sarah cried fiercely. "We can fight this." But a new voice interrupted, a low, sinister whisper that slithered into her ears. "How far would you go to save your child?" In an instant, a memory surged forward. Just last week, she had held Lily close while reading her favorite bedtime story, a tale of brave heroes who faced insurmountable odds. In that moment, she had promised they would always be together, no matter the challenge. But here, faced with the shadow's taunts, that promise twisted. The darkness tugged at her heart, offering temptations disguised as benevolence. "You want to protect her? Then you must sacrifice yourself." The choice dangled in front of her like a dagger, glinting with an icy allure. Lily's life for her own. It ignited an unbearable fire within Sarah. No. She couldn't allow fear to dictate her choice. "Mommy," Lily's voice trembled, piercing through the fog of desperation. "I don't want you to die. Listen to me, Lily, we won't let them take you." The desire to shield her daughter surged, battle-born and raw, clashing with the sinister whispers that hummed a discordant lullaby. The shadows surged, rising like a tide, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath them. In that confusion, a sly break appeared in the darkness, a path leading deeper into the forest. "Quick, Lily, let us go." They lunged for the opening, the shadows snarling in fury behind them. As they dashed, Sarah felt the tug of the darkness, a desperate grasp for the life they had just nearly lost. They pushed through thick brambles, the sharp thorns tearing at their clothes, but they couldn't stop. Then, a deafening roar erupted from the depths of the trees, and the ground shook violently. It felt like an earthquake, the very essence of the forest rebelling against their escape. A guttural scream pierced the air, echoing the pain of those who had surrendered to the darkness before them. "Run, Mommy! They're coming!" Lily shrieked, pulling Sarah forward, but before they could cross the threshold into safety, an overwhelming force pressed against them. The shadows converged, forming a towering wall like a living nightmare. "Leave her!" Sarah's voice rang out, defiant and fierce. "You want me, take me." The words fell from her lips, a desperate sacrifice offered to buy them time. Time slowed, and everything felt suffocatingly heavy as the shadows spiraled toward her, thickening into a monstrous maw. "Mom! No!" Lily cried, terror making her tone rise. "Run, Lily! Go!" But Sarah felt the shadows grab her, gripping her body like icy hands, pulling her back into the darkness. In a heartbeat, Lily stumbled. Panic flooded her tiny frame. "I want to leave you." And just like that, a shattering realization washed over Sarah. The true price was not just her life, it involved her child, bound within a sacrifice she could not bear to make. The darkness reveled in their despair, echoing with a wicked cackle. Clutching Jelly Bear, Lily's safe toy, she squeezed it for comfort. "We can't be apart." That simple truth shone through the chaos. "You have to choose." Mayhem shimmered beyond the veil. But before Sarah could cry out a warning, an unexpected light sparked behind her, blinding and fierce. In the fleeting moment of clarity, Sarah turned her mind aside toward that glow, realizing it was not just a path to deliverance, it was hope. But could it save them both? With the shadows closing in around them, they stood at the precipice of two fates. What awaited them on the other side of that blinding light? Would it be the salvation they desperately sought, or another entrapment in Willow Creek's dark legacy? The blinding light flickered, dancing along the edges of Sarah's vision. It felt warm yet electric, an otherworldly glow that promised sanctuary. She was drawn to it, an instinct pulling her forward, yet the shadows clawed at her heels, guttural voices rising in a frenzy, desperate to reclaim what they sought. "Mommy!" Lily's shriek shattered her focus. The raw fear in her daughter's voice sharpened Sarah's resolve. "Hold my hand, Lily. We're going towards the light." They surged forward together, the gentle glow stretching out before them, a beacon amidst the horror threatening to swallow them whole. But as they edged toward salvation, the darkness writhed, shifting like a sentient creature, baring its jagged teeth. The figures hissed with fury, their whispers now urgent, laced with the rancid stench of despair. "You'll never escape. One must fall." "No!" Sarah shouted back. The defiance thundered through her chest, channeling all her love and fury into those two words. They were not just fleeing, they were fighting to live. As they advanced, the shadows snarled, rushing in with a ferocity that shook the very ground beneath them. Sarah tightened her grip on Lily, feeling the smallness of her daughter, the strength of her spirit radiating through their clasped hands. All the love, all the fears, everything stoked a fire within. Suddenly, the ground rumbled again, splitting open with a forceful crack. A dark chasm yawned before them, a rift in reality that seemed to breathe. Choked sobs echoed from its depths, remnants of those who had faltered and succumbed to the shadows that now surrounded them. "Mommy, please." Lily's voice quivered, panic shimmering in the air. "Just keep running," Sarah urged, lunging past the brink of the abyss. They raced forward, the light inching closer, illuminating their path with a blinding purity that mocked the encroaching darkness. "Sacrifice, sacrifice!" The chant grew louder, wrapping around Sarah and Lily like a suffocating shroud. It grew rhythmic, mesmerizing. She wanted to scream, to drown it out. Instead, she kept moving, her legs on autopilot, fueled by desperation. Only one can leave. The shadows drew nearer, and the strength of their resolve began to falter under the weight of that terrible truth. "Don't listen. We can beat this," Sarah shouted, forcing herself to believe it, willing her feet to carry them away from the never-ending dread. The light pulsed, brighter now, casting revelations that cut through her fear. The moments she had shared with Lily, laughter at the kitchen table, bedtime stories shared, the joy reflected in her daughter's eyes. In her heart, she clung to the truth, they were stronger together. Then, just as they closed in on the light, the shadows lunged, sending a piercing scream that echoed through the trees. It was a cry of anguish, a plea from those caught within the darkness. It sliced through Sarah, cutting deep. Lily stumbled as the shadows surged, a twisting tendril reaching for them, circling her like a serpent. "Mommy!" Lily fell back, terror painting her features. "No!" The word erupted from Sarah's throat. She wouldn't lose her child. Not here, not now. With a primal scream, she hurled herself towards the light, pulling Lily with her. The shadows howled, pressing in tight around them, suffocating, as the world fragmented into chaos once again. In one harrowing moment, they breached the threshold, and everything exploded in a cacophony of blinding brilliance. The world around them shimmered, flickering like an old film reel caught in a loop. The unsettling peacefulness enveloped them. They now stood within a realm that echoed neither freedom nor darkness. "What is this place?" Sarah whispered, breathless. It was neither what she hoped nor feared, a liminal space that twisted reality, a void between choices. A sudden wave of cold punched through her, a stark reminder of the threat that still loomed. The chorus of shadows continued their haunt, weaving through the edges of this new purgatory, whispering truths only half-formed. "Only one can leave now." It was a taunt, a sinister melody that wrapped tightly around her heart once more, as her choice loomed imminent and heavy. Behind her, the light flickered ominously like a beacon dimming. In the growing darkness, Sarah's pulse quickened. What awaited them here? Was this deliverance or merely an elusive trap? "Together, forever," Lily murmured, clutching Jelly Bear tightly, eyes fixated on the refracted glow ahead. Sarah swallowed hard, frantically considering their fate as the shadows slithered closer, eager to claim their next victim. In the stillness, the voices returned, hissing, hollering, conspiring, but before Sarah could comprehend the peril, from the curling blackness, a shadow stepped forward. Its form shifted and morphed, revealing the unmistakable outline of something familiar. "Mommy!" It spoke her name, the twisted form echoed with an otherworldly significance. Was this an ally or another malevolent force? Clarity tightened around her, and Sarah's heart raced. What decision loomed at the heart of this new plane? What horrors awaited them now? The figure loomed closer, its edges flickering like a broken light bulb. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. The voice was unmistakable, a haunting mimicry of her own daughter, yet laced with an echo of despair that twisted her stomach. "Mommy!" The sound drifted through the air, heavy with longing, but also mockery. It bore the innocence of a child while carrying a tone that promised calamity. Just beyond the shadow, she caught the unnerving glint of eyes, a familiar shade that only deepened her dread. "Sarah!" The call came from behind them, a shout that pierced through the ambient hiss of the shadows. It was Lily, the sweet innocence of her voice fighting against the voice of the wraith before them. "Stay back, Lily!" Sarah's command rang out, heart racing as she sought to protect her daughter. But Lily stepped forward, oblivious to the danger, her face a mask of confusion. "Mommy! I can see you," she said, pointing eagerly at the shadows. "Look! It's me! It's me!" "No!" Panic surged in Sarah's veins. "That's not you. It's a trick. Don't listen." The air thickened with tension, making every heartbeat thunderous in her ears. Lily hesitated, glancing between her mother and the shadow. Sarah felt a sudden surge of hatred toward the creature before them. It was playing with her child's hope, twisting it into something grotesque. "Only one can leave." The chorus of shadows swirled, echoing the sentiment like a dark anthem. What cruel game were they trapped in? Each chant refocused Sarah's mind, reminding her that this wasn't just any challenge, a price would need to be paid. "Lily, listen to me." Sarah pressed, urgency sharpening her voice. "You can't trust it. We have to find the way out together." In that moment, the shadow shimmered, morphing again to form more figures, shapes of Sarah's past, her mother, a distant friend from childhood, even her beloved pet. Their faces weren't twisted by darkness but illuminated with an ethereal glow. Each whispered a name, each spoke of love, connection, pulling her heartstring taut. "Sarah, join us." Her mother's voice called sweetly. You've suffered long enough, it's time to come home. No. Sarah fought against the suffocating weight of emotion. It felt so real, so inviting. But she stepped back, reminding herself of the dangers lurking behind their false promises. She turned away from the illusion, forcing herself to focus on her daughter. Lily, we have a choice, Sarah said, breathing steadily. We can't let them take us. We have to be brave. The glowing figures were nearer now, the tendrils of darkness retreating slightly as if caught in their own spell. Sarah sensed the shadows were living in the fear they cultivated. Desperation clawed at her throat, urging her to articulate the truth that rippled between them. Remember what we said, Lily, we're stronger together. Lily nodded slowly, even as her eyes shimmered with tears. But it's so confusing. Sarah's heart sank. What if the confusion led to a choice imposed upon them? What if she had to choose between her child and her own freedom? The dark voice returned, a serpent slithering into her thoughts. It can only be one, the child, or the mother choose. In that moment, terror struck like lightning through her veins. Sarah's eyes darted from Lily to the shimmering figures and back, the pressure growing unbearable. Behind them, the light flickered, fading against the encroaching dread. Lily, she said, on the verge of sobbing, I will never choose to leave you. No matter what they offer. Mom! Lily cried out, confusion translating swiftly to panic as shadows crept closer, reclaiming the space around them. Sarah sensed the monster's impatience feeding off their fear. Defiance surged once more, anger replaced the terror. If we stand together, they can't claim us. And with that, she reached for Lily's small hand, squeezing it tightly. The shadows writhed and surged as if they too feared their connection. Only one chooses. Only one leaves. They roared, frustration thickening the air. We are one. Sarah shouted, grounding herself in the power of their bond. As momentum built, the shadows buckled, screaming in fury, the realm shattering around them, but then, Sarah felt a tremor beneath her feet, an unstable heartbeat of a deeper pulse that rattled through the surface of this space. An unknown force beckoned from beyond, another choice laid bare, a risk she had yet to comprehend. Then suddenly, in that moment of chaos, Lily froze, her expression shifting from panic to something unsettlingly serene. Mommy, I think I know. What do you mean? Sarah felt the ground beneath them tremble, dark fissures forming as the choice loomed closer. But Lily simply smiled, adding her own pulse to the chaos swirling around them. Together, remember? And within that simple phrase, the shadows faltered, the light grew dimmer, and Sarah felt time stretch. What lay in wait for her next? Would she have to make the choice no one should ever have to make? A darkness deeper than she could imagine pulled them in, leaving only a chilling ripple of uncertainty as they ventured further into the unknown. The ground shook violently, a shudder that rattled Sarah's teeth and sent Lily staggering. The air crackled with energy, thick and suffocating, wrapping around them like a serpent coiling for the kill. Shadows danced wildly, a chaotic tempest spiraling as their tether began to fray. Mommy, I feel them, Lily whispered, her small voice trembling, yet filled with an odd certainty that sent chills down Sarah's spine. There was something unnaturally calm about her daughter, as if she accepted the chaos swirling around them. Lily, hold on to my hand. Sarah screamed, fear clawing at her throat like a ravenous beast, urging her to flee from whatever sinister fate awaited, but Lily remained still, her eyes locked on the figures creeping closer, a mix of curiosity and serenity on her face. They want us to choose. But I think we can be free together. Together? Sarah's heart raced. Lily, these are lies. They're manipulating you. She grasped her daughter's hand tighter, the warmth of Lily's small fingers grounding her, fighting against the pull of the shadows. From the darkened edges, those twisted memories slid forward, pulling at Sarah like a rope dragging her under. Choose the child. They cried compellingly. Choose the mother. The voices morphed, warping into a cacophony of arguments, making Sarah's skin crawl. "Mommy, I feel different." Lily's voice quivered. "It's like they're all parts of me." Her gaze pierced through the darkness, reflecting something deeper, something ancient. "No. You're not one of them." Sarah yanked Lily closer. "We've faced too much to let them claim us now." The shadows grew fierce, their mouths yawning wide, ready to swallow them whole. The ground split, revealing a chasm that writhed with a darkness filled with whispers, hungry for souls. "Only one can escape. Only one." It bellowed, penetrating Sarah's core with cold dread. Her heart thumped against her ribs like a desperate prisoner. She glanced at the abyss, then at Lily, the trembling girl who was all that mattered. "We can't let them divide us. We fight this together, remember our promise?" Lily blinked, her eyes shimmering with understanding, but then doubt clouded her expression. "But Mommy, what if we have to let go?" "No. We won't let go," Sarah shouted, her voice a battle cry against the growing tide of despair. The shadows wailed, their cries twisting into a mournful symphony that clawed at Sarah's sanity, whispering of sacrifices, of fates sealed in darkness. Suddenly, the twisted figures blurred, their forms shifting rapidly, merging into haunting reflections of Sarah's own fears, her failures as a mother, her loneliness, every moment she wished she could change. "See what awaits you?" they taunted, their voices entwined like serpents. "It's all your fault. I did my best." Sarah screamed back, furious now. "And I will do whatever it takes to save my daughter." The shadows recoiled momentarily, their facade trembled under the weight of her defiance. Lily tugged at her hand. "Mommy, I don't want you to cry. I can help." "Help?" A deep voice slithered through the air, soft yet deceptively sweet. From behind the chasm emerged a figure cloaked in luminous darkness, its face obscured. "The choice lies with the one who loves most deeply. You know the truth, don't you?" Sarah felt a visceral chill, a deep, primal fear. "What truth?" she demanded, breathing heavily, unsure if she would break under the pressure. The figure moved closer, shifting like smoke. "What lies beyond the choice? The sacrifice is a freedom you do not yet comprehend. But when love is tested, only one emotion prevails." With a sudden jolt, the shadows convulsed violently, shifting the ground beneath them again. Lily. Panic flared as she felt her daughter's hand slip minutely from her grasp. "Stay with me." But Lily's eyes were cast down, the innocence flickering. "Mommy, maybe this is the way." "No. You can't say that." Sarah shrieked, desperation clawing at her throat. "We have to fight." With an ominous flicker, the shadows surged, pulling at them from every angle, faces twisting in pain, confusion, a kaleidoscope of anguish. "Choice is at hand," they hissed, voices weaving into a melody of dread. As the shadows encroached, Sarah felt the truth lick at the edges of her mind. Would she have to choose love or sacrifice? Would Lily truly understand the weight of what lay ahead? Time ebbed, fear coiling tighter in her chest as she braced for the unknown, the darkness clawing at her very soul. What were they about to discover in this shadowy abyss? What price would love demand this time? As the shadows darkened, a vortex of uncertainty enveloped them, pulling Sarah and Lily into a terrifying cascade of choices yet to be made. The shadows tightened around Sarah and Lily, a vice gripped them, squeezing the breath from their lungs. "It's so cold," Lily murmured, her voice barely breaking through the tumult. Sarah could feel the chill creeping into her bones, gnawing at her resolve. "Stay with me, Lily," she shouted, but each word felt heavy and thick, like shouting through tar. The darkness pulsed, a living entity, mocking her desperation as it closed in. "Mommy, I don't think we can stay here." Lily's voice was ethereal, distant. The innocence in her tone sent a ripple of dread through Sarah. "They want me to go, to choose no. I won't let you. We stick together." Each heartbeat felt like thunder, drowning out the shadows' whispers that promised escape, promised understanding. Whatever they want, we can fight it. The chasm below surged, a vortex that beckoned with promises of solace. Embrace your true self. The darkness shrieked, the voices merging into a symphony of temptation. You'll find peace if you choose. Sarah squeezed Lily's hand, locking her gaze onto her daughter's face. Listen to me. This isn't you. These are their lies. But deep inside, doubt gnawed at her. What if it was true? What if letting go was the answer? Suddenly, Lily trembled, her small body vibrating with something other than fear. Mommy, I can feel them inside, they're part of me now. Her eyes glimmered, reflecting the shadows and the pull of uncertainty. Maybe if I choose, I can save us, save you. No. The denial tore from her throat, a raw surge of fear. Sarah felt her strength wavering. Don't say that. We can break this hold. We can expose it for what it is. As if sensing her determination, the shadows writhed with renewed vigor. The whispers escalated, frenzied voices enveloping them in an eerie cacophony. You cannot save yourself without sacrifice. One must be left behind. The ground beneath their feet heaved, cracks spider-webbing outward with malevolent speed. Mommy! Lily cried out, her face pale as terror swirled in her eyes. No! We won't separate. Sarah screamed over the noise, her heart pounding as she felt the world shift violently around them. Don't listen to them. But the shadows transformed again, twisting into figures from Sarah's past, faces of loved ones lost, echoes of memories flooded with warmth that now turned to ice. You chose us once, remember? They murmured, their voices hauntingly familiar. The price of love is steep. Stop it. Sarah bellowed, clutching Lily to her so tightly, she feared she might hurt her. But inner turmoil roared louder. Could she protect her daughter from this? What if the only way out was through a painful choice? The dark figure re-emerged, towering and luminous against the blackness, an impenetrable shadow stretching toward them. The truth lies in the love you are willing to endure. One must surrender. Sarah found herself questioning everything. How much love could take? Would she sacrifice her happiness, her very essence, to save Lily? The hope that they could escape together began to fray. We don't have to choose, she shouted, but the conviction faltered. Please, please hear me. The shadows coiled tighter, a belt of dread tightening around her chest. Choose, or be consumed. Only one can emerge. With her breath quickening, Sarah felt the raw desperation settle like lead in her stomach. As the abyss howled, she caught a glimpse of something flickering between the darkness and light. A way out? A way to break their chains? Mommy! Lily's voice broke through, sharp and brave. We can be free. I see it. But it means one of us must choose. Sarah's heart dropped. Lily, no. As she looked into her daughter's eyes, the shadows roared, a sinister laugh echoing through the void as time stretched and twisted, leaving them at the precipice of an impossible choice. What would she be willing to sacrifice? The darkness watched, waiting, hungering. The shadows thickened around Sarah and Lily, the insidious whispers growing louder, swirling in their ears like a menacing storm. Only one can leave. The figures taunted, stretching themselves further, phantoms of despair capturing the light and twisting reality into a nightmarish panorama. Sarah's heart raced as her grip on Lily tightened, their hands clammy and cold. Mommy, I can't stand it. Lily cried, eyes wide in terror as the darkness pressed closer, encroaching on their very essence. The shadows pulsed like a heartbeat, each beat urging them toward an unspeakable choice. Sarah could feel her resolve slipping, the very ground beneath them shifting, reflecting the turmoil within. No, Lily. We're not doing this. Sarah shouted, her voice an anchor in the chaos, desperate to pull her daughter back from the brink of despair. But Mommy, it's so strong. Lily's voice trembled, innocence tinged with an unearthly calm, an unsettling understanding reflected in her gaze. Maybe I should choose. No. The word erupted from Sarah's lips, each syllable resonating with the resolve of a mother's love, her heart aflame with fear and fierce determination. There are always choices. The shadows wrathed back, venting their frustration in a palpable wave, their ghastly forms contorting and fading. You cannot fight fate. They screamed, their cacophony threatening to drown out her voice. I want to lose you. Sarah's cries broke through the storm, an echo of defiance, but deep down, the shadows were gnawing at her, a doubt seated in each hissing whisper. The figures of lost souls shimmered around them, beckoning with promises of peace and release, yet they were filled with such sorrow. It could be easier, one must pay. A familiar murmur slithered around her. Suddenly, a figure materialized, an amorphous shape that resonated with Lily's spirit. But it twisted back into a mocking reflection of Sarah's own past failures, a reminder of the burdens she carried, manifesting as the very shadows that haunted their lives. What will you sacrifice? It hissed, eyes glowing with malevolence. Everything. Sarah shouted, I would die before I let you take her. But the darkness only laughed, its voice resonating through every fiber of her being. The ground quaked beneath them, as if reality itself wrestled with their choice. Will you pay the price? The dark tales from her grandmother's journal flooded her mind. Children lost, families torn apart. The darkness relished those bound in despair, those willing to sacrifice their happiness for the illusion of freedom. They want us to choose. She replied fiercely, staring into the depths of that malevolent void. The shadows loomed larger, darker. Do it, Mommy. Choose. Lily's voice called out, her tone shaking with too much understanding, too much resolve. I can help. I'm not afraid. No. You're my everything. Sarah pleaded, resisting the darkness that whispered promises far too tempting. We can fight this together. The shadows recoiled, their forms distorting, angrily whispering fears of abandonment and betrayal entwined with the call of the abyss. The chasm of uncertainty, a swirling vortex of anguish, constantly beckoned. In that moment of desperation, a flicker of hope ignited within Sarah. Lily, remember our promise. She yelled, squeezing her daughter's hand. We're stronger together. And the shadows shrieked in outrage. Only one can escape. They sang, a bitter symphony threatening to peel their will away. The ground beneath them trembled ominously, cracks spreading as if the world itself threatened to consume them both. But as the darkness surged, the shimmering light behind them flickered with intent. An exit, a passage reflecting the choices waiting ahead. We can make it. Sarah shouted, abandoning every fear, every doubt, every shade of despair. I see it, Mommy. We can. But before Lily could finish, shadows surged, twisting and writhing, trying to divide them. One must fall. No. Sarah roared, her heart seizing as she felt the darkness claw at Lily, an intuitive urge spurring her into action. Together. In a rush. Fueled by a desperate, protective instinct, she propelled them toward the flickering light. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of mournful rage as they pushed against the onslaught of tender hope. And then it exploded, like a blooming flower. The light radiated an embodiment of everything they held dear, drowning out the darkness. Together, they charged. The shadows faltered, twisted, screamed their last as the luminous glow enveloped them. As Sarah felt the pull of the light, she clutched Lily's hand tighter, willing her to lean into the warmth, to embrace the hope offered fiercely against the dread. Together, always. With one final, desperate rush, they surged into the light, warmth embracing them, every shadow retreating in fear. Suddenly, a ripple passed through the air, and they compressed together like a dam breaking, flooding joy and love back into the world. Then, as they emerged from that surge, gasping for air, the weight of the darkness lifted, and the haunted whispers shrank into silence. They stood hand in hand, sunlight pouring through the canopy, illuminating Willow Creek. The woods around them felt bright, vibrant, brimming with life once more, as if the darkness had been purged, defeated at last. "Mommy?" Lily looked up, eyes sparkling with the innocence returned. "Did we win?" "Yes, my love." Sarah knelt before her, cupping her cheeks, tears streaming down her face. "Together, we won, forever." And in that moment, they knew they would never be subjects of horror. Instead, their bond whirled into a deeper promise, vibrant against the backdrop of enchantment alive around them, a testament that love could conquer even the darkest of fates. "Easter is more than rebirth," Sarah whispered, looking into Lily's eyes, "it's a celebration of love and resilience." The air shimmered with newfound hope, each breath a reminder that they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious together. But as the sun shined brightly above them, the faintest echoes lingered, whispers of unfinished tales wrapped within the shadows just beyond the edge of Willow Creek, waiting hungrily. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our channel. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is crucial. Show it.